Hello everyone, it's Joe here. Sadly, today I don't bring good news. It is now official that our location at Music Lab North Leeds in Moortown will be closing down. We'll be relocating, but in the interim we'll have to be creative. We'll be using these alternative venues who have been lovely and very supportive in an attempt to help us in this difficult transition period. But I want to give some context as to why this is happening. So some of you may know that we had some issues with a noise complaint. This is back in December/January 2025. And at the time when we received the noise complaint, we questioned what could be done, and we talked to the environmental and health department of the city council. And what was explained is that we had to basically soundproof the rooms and invest fundamentally unlimited amount of money in attempting to stop the noise complaints. We weren't offered a lot of reassurance or guarantees, and at the time I questioned whether the responsibility of due diligence was to fall exclusively on us, which felt slightly unfair, but we took it on the chin and we started to negotiate. Even we spoke with tradespeople about soundproofing the rooms, and I have all those exchanges as proof. Alongside this noise complaint came another complaint from the council itself, and that was a complaint that was in regards to planning permissions and class uses. Evidently, at this point, we had been at Music Lab Moortown for almost 3 years when we're having these conversations. Now we've been there for 3.5 years. Once again, I showed willingness to discuss these things. I went online, I started to fill out the forms to apply for a planning permission change, simply following instructions fundamentally. And when I, of course, arrive at the last page, when it's time to pay for the form and to submit the application, I notice that the checkout says £780. At this point, I feel compelled to pause, because it's an incredible amount of money to submit an application that provides, once again, no guarantees. They could decline the change. And so I started thinking to myself, let's understand a little bit better what this entails, the changing of class uses and everything like that. And to my surprise, I started to realize that what the council was claiming was not correct. Whereas they claim that we should be under class F, whilst we are currently under class E, I started to read more about what class F is all about, and it is quite clearly about formal education, which of course Music Lab does not provide. We provide literally informal education. We are a tuition center, if you will, which ironically falls under class E. So places like yoga studios, martial arts academy, tuition centers fall under class E, even nurseries. And for some reason they saw us as formal education. Now, we don't teach following the national curriculum. We don't even teach only during term time. We are virtually always open all year. So this whole situation started to feel a little uncomfortable, to say the least. And so I pursued this. I sent them an email explaining my position. The law is also very clear that changes of class use within a specific lettered class do not require a new planning permission application. And so this whole thing starts to escalate, and now I have the noise complaint, I have this planning permission, and I start to feel, well, we're being cornered from two different angles. What is the point in me spending all this money on soundproofing if then they decline the planning permission? And what is the point in submitting the planning permission change, even if they were correct in their assessment, if then the soundproofing is not enough and the neighbor keeps complaining, let's say? So I have these two departments coming at Music Lab fundamentally, and I'm having to work what's the best path here. So it got to a point where I've submitted an appeal against the class use change situation, and of course the soundproofing, I've put that on hold, because again, is it really intelligent to spend $5,000, $10,000 on soundproofing the place, when then they could tell us, yes, you still are not allowed to use the property for the purposes of teaching, or teaching music in this case. And we've reached a tipping point where, even though we've submitted an appeal and the appeal was considered to be valid, which means it's now under investigation, the council still notified us that our time is up, fundamentally. In the meantime, I'll be very honest, the council included our landlord in these conversations, as it should, and the landlord is not very happy. So they too started to apply pressure on me, personally. Now, for context there, commercial leases are not like residential leases. Not only we are responsible for all repairs and everything like that, they're also historically much longer than a residential lease if you are a renter. And our lease was for many years. And let me just say that we still have many years on our lease, which means our exit fees and all those costs that will come associated with exiting a lease early will be a challenge to cope with. And we're trying to do what's right, but fundamentally, I want to keep all our teachers' jobs. This is the source of income for a lot of people, including myself. I want to make sure that our members, our students, keep learning. That is the point of what we do. But I also want to make sure that we do it right. So currently we are in this transition phase. So I'll probably be posting more videos on this because it is a developing situation. But I just wanted to give some context. But I also don't want to go on for 20 minutes, which I could because there's a lot to this. I appreciate your patience. The situation is a little rocky as it stands, but we will do our very best to continue to teach our students in alternative venues. Our students themselves have already received some information on this, but there you go. This is the situation as it stands.